they will tell you that they really don't understand the chemical mechanism that makes them work. Well, this lack of understanding, I think, is at the heart of the reason that farmers, when they are administered these drugs and have been exposed extensively to pesticides, are having these irrational responses, namely leading to increased depression, inability to reason, and that inability, as you'll learn in watching the film, causes them even more depression. And it's leading to really an invisible dilemma that the medical establishment, I think, fails to recognize, largely because the media has promulgated this myth that farmers are self-sacrificial and that they're simply doing this for the financial gain of their family. And I think that's a very narrow interpretation of what, in fact, is actually happening among the farm communities in the United States. In India, there's a similar problem with farmers committing suicide, and they have no $100,000 life insurance premiums or to bestow on their families. So there's much more going on in this case than meets the untutored eye.
Well, Joe, I can't wait to get on over to Baxter Theater and with the rest of the audience and take a look at Green Blood and Red Tears. But before we do that, can you just tell me how the audience can get in touch with you and your film work on the internet?
Yes, I have a website, www.cinestream.info. I'm sure Patrick will be putting up a subscript on that.
Yeah, right. We'll get it on there.
But that has a mechanism. People can send me an email, order the film, give me feedback, talk about their own experiences in agriculture or with psychotropics. I think it's important for people to understand, particularly in the urban communities, that this is not a problem limited just to farmers. There are lots of chemicals that people use on their lawns in particular and in their homes that also have the same impact. And people should be very cautious, particularly around infants, because infants are, their brains are still in the process of development, and one should be very careful about the use of pesticides in the home or on the lawn if you have young children.
All right. Well, with no further ado, let's head on over to the Baxter Theater and take a look at Joe's new film, Green Blood, Red Tears.
Been supported by the Kentucky Arts Council, by the Kentucky Humanities Council, and by Kentucky Educational TV, or KET. I'd like Joe to take a bow.
James Goodman State. We were studying for Candy and Stacy, Amy and Thomas Goodman. We appreciate you coming to the sale. Been nice rain, everything looking good, and we appreciate you coming over and paying the honor to Kathy and everybody for this sale. Some sales are very, very enjoyable and some are not. So anyhow, we're here to do the best we can for Kathy and the three children. So help yourself if you want to buy this farm.
When my nephew died suddenly, the farming communities around Bowling Green, Kentucky were stunned. The standing room only crowd which came to honor his memory was touching evidence of how much he was admired. As I filmed the gathering and listened to the old hymn, I wondered what caused this tragedy, what cross bore him down. Anger and sadness welled up inside me, and I resolved to investigate the mystery posed by his death, to follow the clues wherever they led. Little did I realize at the time that as a farmer he was far from alone in the manner of his leave-taking. Here then is the story of James Gray Goodman, and the thousands of farmers like him who thought finally they had but one crop to harvest, themselves.
To the old rugged cross, I will never be true. Well, James Gray his bloodline was so thick in farming with both grandfathers that you always hear, you know, it gets in your blood, it's a way of life, but coming from somebody that's been there and understands that James and I were close, we talked a lot about it. He had made a remark a time or two that if I can't farm, I don't think I can do anything, which he had the education that he could do about anything he wanted to do. But James had such a goal of being kind of self-made, stay on the farm, that he just wasn't going to leave the farm.
And I said, James, you're a very proud man. And I said, your number one enemy right now will be your pride. And he said, you're exactly right. I said, you're going to worry about what everybody's going to think. You're going to worry about the obligations that you have and doing those people right. I said, you've always been a true and honest man. And when you tell somebody you're going to do something, you're going to do it or bust. But I said, pride will kill you. I said, just pure pride will kill you.
But the James that I knew, he wouldn't have done this. I don't know why that things happened the way they did. James was only 42 years old.
He told me he worked so hard and so long, trying to do right and never wrong. Then on 10th of March 1995, for reasons we do not know, he took his own life. He left behind a family so dear, a list of friends both far and near. We ask God's guidance one day at a time. James Gray would too if he were here by our side. Someday we'll see him in that farmland above for all his peace and joy and wonderful love. Farmer suicide is more than a private individual problem. It's an international calamity. Brazil, England, Spain, India, and China all report high suicide rates among their farmers. In one province in India, more than 300 farmers killed themselves in 1998. In the United States, where farmers comprise less than 2% of the population, the problem spans mid-America.
What they discovered when we began looking at the data in Missouri was that farmers were far more likely than any other occupation group by a significant factor to take their own lives. In fact, farm suicide was very likely underreported. There were any number of, quote, hunting accidents. Coroners would list a hunting accident on the death certificate. Or there would be very suspicious traffic accidents. Or there were cases where farmers were taking a loaded grain truck to market, and the truck would mysteriously stall on a railroad crossing, and the farmer would be killed.
We realized that in Oklahoma in certain years that we had a very high percentage of suicides among Oklahoma farmers. Plus we had an increase in accidents in a 5-year span there. Some of the accidents that we know definite were intentional because of the person was trying to take his own life, but it would show up as an accident and not necessarily a farm suicide. And one instance that I know, the person turned his tractor over 3 times before he achieved what he wanted.
The general population, like in Oklahoma, is 15 per 100,000 suicide rate. And for Oklahoma farmers, it's 49 per 100,000. And we thought we were the highest in the nation, but we found out that Wisconsin and Montana even have a higher suicide rate. In the one multi-state study, the rate of suicide among farmers ranged from 42 to 58 per 100,000 in 5 north-central states. Put simply, farmers are 3 to 4 times more likely to kill themselves than the average American.